Today's episode of Round Guy Radio is proudly brought to you by Henshaw Trailer Sales of Richland, Iowa, Smithburg Auto of Fairfield, Iowa, the Packwood Locker of Packwood, Iowa, and the Cedar Rapids Titans Arena football team, which you can see this Sunday on Round Guy Radio. We'll be broadcasting from the Alliant Energy Center as they take on the Midwest Raptors at 5 o'clock on Sunday. We got Coach Hellge of the Holy Trinity Crusaders. Welcome to the program, Coach.
Hey, thanks for having me, Dave.
Well, no problem. I've been run out of time. So, it seemed like I've done all 5 years, pretty much like clockwork, but they kind of shorted me 10 hours this month and kind of made life a little hard on me, but we're back in business. So we got some time. It's been a couple weeks since I talked to you. Can you let our listeners kind of know, in that kind of time frame, how things have been going?
Well, we've been playing pretty good. I don't remember the exact time frame when we talked last, but we have won 8 out of 10 games. And, one of those losses was to Notre Dame, who's a great team. And then the other loss was to another good team, Meepo, in overtime. Had a real great chance to win that one, but we didn't get it done. So I feel like we're playing well here down the stretch and, just gearing up for our last game tonight versus Clark County. And then, off to the races in the playoffs.
Well, the playoffs are out, and I believe you drew Waco, didn't you?
Yeah, we've got Waco on that Monday, February 16th date. Should be at our Plex, I think.
And it sounds like you get a home game there. I've seen a lot of Waco this year. You got a big win. Let's before we talk about that, so let's talk a little bit about. I know you got a win over Columbus in the shootout in the South. I think they won all the games, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
The South a little stronger than the North. But can you tell us a little bit about that game you had with Columbus?
Yeah, we played pretty decent against Columbus. We beat them by about 29. I think it was 72-41. We had some real good contributions from everybody. Lane Rung had his normal great game. But, our freshman, Jack Ragar, I think he had his first 20-point game. He finished with 21. And Lane was like 22. And Box Cutter had 10. So, we were real happy with the performance and of everybody, and always nice to get a win in that shootout. So, yeah.
Yeah, it was a South was hosting this year, so you got another home game there. So we're going to do the award show here pretty soon, and I wanted to, while I'm talking to you, announce a couple of award winners that you've got on your team. Jack Ragar is going to be, or I call him Radar O'Reilly there, because his radar was dialed in this year, and he is going to be on the, you can only find 4. We'll call him the Fab 4, but he's going to be on the all-freshman team. So congratulations to that young man, and he definitely deserved it. And I talked to a lot of coaches, and they all suggested him. So, and also we've got Lane Rung is on the all-round guy team this year.
Oh, that's great.
For his contributions. Could you talk a little bit about those 2 young men that you got there and their contributions, and maybe why they were pretty good selections for the all-round guy team?
Well, you got freshman in Ragar, who's going to, surpass 300 points as a freshman. It's pretty unheard of. I think per game, he's right around 14. He's been great for us all year. He's kind of been coming to open gyms and summer stuff with us for a couple of years. So we kind of knew what we had in him, and he's exceeded all of those expectations and just really been a steady player for us. And, yeah, has he been perfect at all times? No, but he's a 14-year-old freshman up there, going against the likes of Shea Stevens and other guys like that. So he's had a fantastic season.
Well,
and then Lane Rung, he's in year 4 with us and, pretty much a 4-year starter. He's going to be well over 400 points by the end of the season, averaging over 20 points a game. And, he's kind of the heart and soul of our team. He's our captain. He's our leader. He's our coach on the floor. And, he's just been a great player for many years. And, I think you saw him first up there at Hillcrest the first time he covered us and gave him that nickname of the lower rung. And man, I tell you, he might be the upper rung of the family now. He said his 2 brothers were fantastic, and his dad and his grandpa and his great uncle, they were all just in whole family. They just, all these rungs have came through. And I don't know. I mean, he might be the best of the best when it comes to the Rung family.
Well, he's certainly a standout player, and he's a 1,000-point guy.
Yeah.
I want to say a little something about Ragar there. One of the things that I was more impressed, with him more than his shooting and his defense, which were both very impressive. But just the way he brought the ball up, how he controlled it and how he could make spin moves and made good decisions. I think that was where, for a freshman, I thought it was really good. I mean, it would have been good for a senior.
Yeah.
What about his ball control and distribution? What do you think of that?
Yeah, it's really good. I mean, he's played a lot of basketball, and it shows. And he's played against a lot of older players, where and AAU type players, where he's had tremendous amount of pressure, and all those situations that he's been through, along with his hard work, has really made him a really talented freshman.
Yeah, well, but you've had several other players. You got a younger player, Ellison. I call him Purvis, never nervous Purvis Ellison from the NBA there.
Yeah.
Uh, but he had a good 3-point shooting and contributed to a bunch of wins, and he seemed like a player that kind of emerging for you there. What about that young man's performance this year?
Yeah, he's shot great from the behind the arc. He's got 38 made threes at 30, almost 38%. He's a gym rat. He's anytime that gym's open, he's in it and working hard. And he just does all the right things. He hits the weight room. He hits all the optional off-season stuff. And during the season, he's just a leader. He communicates. You never see any kid dive on the floor like this guy does. He could care less if he bumps his chin or his head or his elbows or whatever. He's coming up, wanting more, and just a great player. And
Well,
he's got a little brother that'll be a freshman for me next year, and he's a heck of an eighth grader.
that's outstanding. Nathan Box and Van Newell also played a big role for you. Nathan Box is always he's always baling the hay out there for you and doing box cutter stuff. He's a big part of what you're doing. And Van Newell seemed like as the year went on, he started to pour in more points, it seemed like.
Yeah, for sure. Nathan, he doesn't always light up the scoreboard in terms of points, but he's going to get you offensive rebounds, or he's gonna put a body on somebody where someone else gets the offensive rebound, and kind of the same thing on the defensive side. And he's a good defender, a good teammate. He's tough as nails. Another guy that's first to the ground if the ball's on the floor. He's a lot of fun to be around. He's just a great kid. And then Corbin, he's a quiet 6'5" center for us. He can shoot. He's got 8 made threes on the year, and he had 19 against Fairfield the other night, and I was really, really happy with that performance. Didn't score quite as much as the Columbus game but sometimes the ball just doesn't come your way like it does other games. So he'll be over 200 points probably by the end of the season, and he's quietly had just a really great career for Holy Trinity.
All right. You had a freshman named Paulie, and he was on the verge of being on this freshman team, but he seems like he had a lot of talent. He played a lot of JV ball, and he got a little time on there. What about that kid for next year? Do you think he's developing?
Yeah, he's going to be great. He's had some knee problems this year, and he broke his nose, and he's just kind of took some banging here throughout the season. So he hasn't played quite as much in varsity games, but he came in the last 3 minutes of the Columbus game, and he had a steal, three. He was 3 for 3 from the field, a couple offensive rebounds. So yeah, I'm really excited for his development, excited for next year, and he'll probably get a chance to help us a little bit here in the playoffs. And the other guy we didn't mention, he's just come on the last 6 games, a Fort Madison Bloodhound transfer, Graham Meredith. He kind of plays the same position as Jay Ellison. He comes in and gives Jay a break and gives Nathan Box a little break at the 4. But he's hit 6 threes already in 6 games and averaging about, I don't know, about 6 or 7 points a game. So he's a really quick guard, and we're excited to have him for a whole season next year.
Yeah, I got to see him a little bit on that dog pound when you were playing. Maybe it was Columbus you were playing there, but he looked like a
Yeah,
good player to me.
he's very good.
And you got the Williams kid that seemed to come in and off the
Yeah.
bench and seemed like you're kind of number one guy coming off of the bench most of the year there.
Yeah, Tanner is another guard off the bench, and he's been great for us as well. He plays really good defense and does all the things that we need, the relief guys to do off the bench, and he'll be a big time part of the team next year as well.
Well, because of the location of your school, you get a little opportunity to play some teams, maybe from Illinois, maybe from Missouri. What does those experiences do for your team? And to give us a little preview of this game you got tonight.
Yeah, it's kind of always fun to play these out of state teams. We don't get to play a lot of the Illinois teams during the regular season, but we see a lot of them during the summer since we are so close when we do our team camps and stuff. But yeah, Clark County will come into town, and they play a lot different basketball down there. There's no shot clock, and the physical play is a lot different. It's a lot more rugged down there, I might say, when we go down there every other year. So kind of glad the game's in Fort Madison this year. Last year when we went down there, it got pretty rough, and it's just a different style of play. But we still enjoy going down there and all that stuff. But they bring in some really good talent tonight, so we've got to bring our game and be ready to hopefully get number 14 and a little momentum heading into the playoffs.
Well, I'm sure you'll give them a good. Oh, that's a home game for you, right?
Yeah, yeah, we play at
Well,
7:30.
that,
Boys, girls are at 6.
that'll be nice. Well, tell us, you drew Waco,
Yeah.
and we have had probably you and Waco have been some of the schools have been on Round Guy Radio the most this year, including you had a game against Waco, I think, that was on Round Guy Radio earlier this year. You've done pretty well against Waco in the last few years, and not very many people can say that, but they do have some talent. I think sometimes they shoot, they have nights when they shoot better than other nights, but what about Waco? Have you had a chance to look into it? I know these only been like an hour since the brackets came out.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of keep an eye on all the North versus South teams, and I thought we were going to be the 4 seed until West Burlington upset somebody. I forget who. I think it was Central Lee, maybe, and they got to play Waco instead of us. So then we got Columbus. But they run a great program up there. They've been good forever. It seems like at 10-10 this year, that's a little unlike Waco normal season, but I know they've lost some really tough games, and we'll be ready to go. I think we ended their season last year, so I'm sure that they, haven't forgot that, and we're going to have to bring our best effort. There can't be a better number 6 seed in the state of Iowa than Waco. I just, for the life of me, can't believe that they're 6, but that's the way that the state has it drawn out, and you got to beat everybody anyway. So we'll start with Waco and
Well,
go from there.
it seemed like really good matchup for a first round game, and I will certainly be excited to keep an eye on that one. Well, geez, I may be out of questions. Do you have any like overall statistics or anything for the season that you want to be talking about?
No, I don't think so. We're sitting at 13-7. We'd obviously like to have more wins, but every coach in the state except the undefeated teams are probably saying the same thing. But just happy. It's been a good season. We've had a lot of fun. We've developed, and no matter what happens at the end of the day, I think our kids walk away with a good experience, and that's really what matters more than anything.
Well, basketball is tough to go undefeated. I believe there's only two teams in the whole state that are were able to get clear through the season. I know Notre Dame almost did it, but they got a little tripped up, I think, by Pella Christian there at the very end of the season. But let me ask you just about how tough that would be. I mean, you get started and you got Thanksgiving break and then you get going and you got snow days and you have to reshuffle the deck a time or two during the season and you get these injuries, the knees and the noses and the elbows and everything get bumped around. Plus, everybody seemed to have a big round of flu this year. We even
Yeah,
had to cancel some things. So, plus, what other sport you play 4 or 5 games a week and back-to-back games and maybe 2 back-to-back games a week,
yeah, yeah.
and Saturday games and all that. So what
Yeah,
about the marathon of the season and how hard that is to just keep it just to not have a plus you just have a night where you don't shoot good.
right. Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I think, like you said, there's 3 teams in the state that are undefeated, and it's hats off to them. It's really amazing. But not only everything that you mentioned, you go through 3 major holidays, so kids are getting pulled different directions with family and things like that. But it's a grind going through this whole season, especially as you get older, like I am, and it's 13 weeks to the playoffs. But I tell you, it seems like yesterday we were starting that first practice. It's a long grind, but it goes very, very quickly.
Well, Lane Rung, man, he was a player of the game there in the first regular season game we ever did when you were playing with Waco. And you watch these kids, I mean, I've been a few years here watching some of these same kids. I get a little sad when they graduate and move on to bigger and better things. But it sure has been a pleasure watching the players on your team. I feel like I know them pretty well, and I'm
Yeah.
wishing you good luck tonight. And when it's Friday night when the playoffs start, right?
Well, it's kind of like the 8 and 9 seeds. So there's just every district will have a what I would call like a pigtail play-in game, and those teams get the pleasure of playing the 1 seed if they win on Friday. So our in my particular in our sub-state 5 district 9, that will be New London and Highland. So whoever wins that game will play Notre Dame. And then on the other side, the winner of Lone Tree and Belle Plaine will play Calamus Wheatland.
Okay. Well, so when did you say the your first playoff game is going to be?
It'll be Monday, February 16th.
And is this the game we play tonight? Is that the last one on the season?
Yeah, so we'll have a whole week off.
Okay. So, what's the strategy to keep you've been playing all this long, you get your legs underneath you. How do you stay sharp between now and that first playoff game?
Well, we get kind of creative. We don't have a large squad. We just have our 8 guys or so that play varsity, and then our JV guys. So we'll try to push those JV guys to push our varsity guys as hard as they can. Some cases we'll go 6-on-5, 7-on-5. I think some years I've went like 9-on-5. You got to do whatever you can and to stay competitive. You may have to break it up into some 4-on-4 or 3-on-3 stuff with your varsity guys so you can get some Ragar versus Rung type matchups and things like that. But I hate having a week off. There's nothing worse than that. But there's only so much we can do. We got a scrimmage left, but who in the world are you going to scrimmage? Everybody else is you're going to be playing. So you just got to do your best to stay sharp and keep the kids motivated is about all you can do.
Well, there's a bright side. If they've got sore ankle or back or anything, maybe give it a little time to heal up. Coach,
Yeah.
I won't tell you, I think you might have done some of your best coaches that I've ever seen you do. I mean, it's when you got a Luke Helge on your team, was the first team All Stater. It's probably a little easier to navigate the season, but you had some really good players, and they played really well together. But you didn't have much of a bench. You weren't 10 deep. You maybe were 7 deep or 6 or 7 deep sometimes with some injuries. How did you feel? I know coaches, they look at their record and they think maybe the record wasn't where they wanted it to be, but I really thought you did a great job, and you got a bunch of great young men that you're leading. And it probably wasn't as fun as going to sub-state and stuff like that, like you did, and maybe you'll get there this year too. But I thought you did a really good job this year, and thank you for coming back. You didn't even have to do that.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I appreciate the kind words. At the end of the day, it's the kids that are busting their butt for me in the summer and fall and getting ready, for the season. We do a lot in the off season, and if those kids weren't committed, it wouldn't be a big difference. But for me, I have fun every day. It keeps me young, and it's the game I've always loved. So can't really imagine a day going by where I'm not coaching basketball. But appreciate the kind words. But at the end of the day, it's the kids that are doing the work, putting the baskets in during the game, and getting the wins or playing hard or whatever it takes.
Well, we mentioned your son Luke. I'm kind of interested. I know that it didn't take very long for him to work his way into the starting lineup and getting some minutes up there. How did his season go, and how much more season they got?
I think they got like 4 games left. We've made most of the games, fortunately. And he's had a good season. He, kind of started coming off the bench, but I think out of their 20 games, he started about 12 or 13 of them. Most of them recently he started, and it's a big adjustment. I mean, it's Division 3 basketball, but those guys are still big. They're fast. They're strong. They can shoot. And for an 18-year-old to be going up against 22, 23-year-olds, it doesn't sound like much, but it's a big difference. And he's learned a lot and really had a great season. Overall, I think they're down a little bit at Cornell, but not a lot of upperclassmen this year. They brought in 11 freshmen, so they've been playing young all year and learning. And here recently, I think they've won like 3 out of their last 6. So they're turning the corner, and hopefully everybody sticks around. I mean, nowadays kids transfer. You never know who's coming or going, but hopefully these kids understand they're young, and if they stick together, they could really be special 2 or 3 years down the road. But it's really fun just to be dad and sit in that crowd and watch Luke. I really, really enjoy that. And I've got some great assistants that allow me to, miss a few practices so I can go and make that happen. And really, really appreciative of the school and the assistant coaches allowing me to do that.
Well, you're in a hotbed that's South, man. There's a lot of great teams. I wonder what New London and Van Buren would have done if they were in the North, up there, because there wasn't really any, nothing easy on that schedule at all, and you had a lot of overtime games and double overtime games.
Oh,
And
yeah.
but congratulations on what I think was an outstanding season, and good luck to you tonight, and good luck to you in the playoffs.
Thanks so much. Appreciate you having me on.